In this lesson, we are learning about multicellularity, which is part of topic 2 in Unit 1. So keep in mind, if you are looking for a different section of the syllabus, we are in topic 2. Still part of Pearson though, okay? All right. Unicellular organisms, they make sense, they sound nice and easy, they are simple, and they carry out all the 7 functions of life in just one cell. Okay, they're very simple, they do not have complex bodily systems like we do. They can be stationary, or they can have a lot of different types of movement, and their cell sizes, again, we understand, is limited by their surface area to volume ratio, just like the single cells in our multicellular bodies. Some of these single cellular organisms live in colonies. They work together, but they're not actually fused together. So we're talking things like yeast, bacteria, amoeba, or parameciums. Multicellular organisms, however, do have a single fused mass. Okay, it's lots of little cells fused together, and those cells are cooperative. Okay, now because they are cooperative, they have what's known as emergent properties. These are properties that are like greater than the sum of their parts. The whole is greater than all those tiny little cells, which means it can do functions that it wouldn't be able to do without having all those different types of cells in its fused mass. Levels of organization, we make sense. We have to start from the smallest little atoms over here, and we move on to making macromolecules like our DNA, like our carbohydrates, like our lipids, and then it forms a cell, right? Once we have that one cell, then we can start to fuse all those cells together in a certain type of tissue, and all those cells in that tissue will have a similar function. Doesn't necessarily mean they all only have one function. And once that tissue all comes together, it can form a particular organ which has a job. Now, at this point, that's when we start to get that emergent property where all those cells fused together suddenly have this greater purpose working together. Those organs then get mushed together to make a system, and they work very cooperatively with other organs. And then we have multi-systems. We have huge numbers of systems working together to form that organism level. Cells can't do all this unless they have a bit more specialization than, say, just the default. So we understand that the genetic code is in charge of determining what pathway these cells take and what proteins are expressed in these cells. So we call that differentiation. Once a cell is switched on, it has different properties based on what proteins are being expressed. So depending on which genes are switched on or off, we're going to see those basic stem cells, those undifferentiated cells, turning into different types of cells and doing different jobs. So cells in the same tissue or organ may do similar jobs, though they may do different ones as well. So in the pancreas, adjacent cells can actually be doing 2 different roles. One can be making hormones like insulin, and another one can be making digestive enzymes, all within the same organ. Yes, DNA determines this, and yes, there are many types of cells that can be produced once these stem cells differentiate. For example, and look, marvel at their prettiness, red blood cells with a white blood cell mushed in there. We can have an ova, or an ovum. We can have muscle tissue. We can have plant cells full of chloroplasts. We can have, this is a pancreas I was mentioning earlier, beta cells and alpha cells adjacent to one another doing different jobs. We can have the cells of our small intestine, which have huge protrusions and lots of little hairy-like projections to increase their surface area to absorb more. We can have sperm, and we can have, beautiful plant vascular systems, xylem and phloem. So all of that stems from one indeed stem cell, and then it can differentiate depending on what genes are switched on or off. Now, stem cells come with a lot of challenges, okay? They are difficult to find to start with, and we always consider our ethical situation when we're talking about stem cells. So stem cells can be embryonic or they can be adult. They either come from an embryo, which means we haven't quite formed the rest of the organism yet. We just have the bundle of undifferentiated cells, or they can actually be adult stem cells. Now, adult stem cells are also known as somatic stem cells, and they're found throughout the body. It means they've done a little bit of differentiation, but not all the way. So, for example, you can have hemopoietic, I'm really bad at saying that, stem cells that are already differentiated to form some kind of blood cell, but there's still a little bit of wiggle room as to which one they become. Unfortunately, though, they've already differentiated halfway down the pathway, so that's what they're stuck doing in the body. Having said that, they're really hard to find in the body. So scientists have actually found a way to rewind their differentiation. So if we do find the adult stem cells and we go looking for them, then they can rewind it so that they are pluripotential, which means they have complete potential to be anything that they want to be, as opposed to multipotent, which means they can only turn into a few different types of stem cells. So we find embryonic stem cells, obviously in embryos. Often we are using IVF discarded embryos that have already been a fertilized egg and grown up a few times, so mitosis has occurred a few times and they are no longer needed. We can also save umbilical cord blood, where there are a lot of different stem cells available. So we can use them to generate healthy cells, to replace disease cells in the body. They are used to model how diseases progress and develop, or conditions develop, and they can be used to test new treatments as well. But the regulation on all of these collection and use and research is very tight at the moment, and every country dictates theirs in a different way. Right, there are our syllabus links.